Yes, good morning to everyone and a very warm welcome from DDN. On behalf of the DDN management, I would like to welcome you here today. We are very happy to have you here live and also online. This is the Life Sciences Field Day event. Just a little bit about the history. We started with this series of events in 2015 in Europe and in the US. There was, of course, a break in between, as you can imagine, the last 3 years. But now we wanted to revive this format and have again, this type of event where the life sciences community, life sciences research community has the opportunity to exchange about the latest methods in the research area based on IT methods, of course, and high performance computing and AI. We're witnessing a lot of changes in the way research is done, and we're very happy to cooperate here with Helmholtz Munich Center and with Dr. Alf Wachsmann as one of our cooperation partners. And you will hear a lot of the research during the day. So I hope that this is a very nice exchange for you and very valuable. And without much further delay, I would like to hand over to Alf Wachsmann.
Yeah, thank you, Manusas. Yeah, welcome everybody here at Helmholtz Munich. I'm today's host, so to speak. I was happy when Manusas approached me and asked me, hey, Alf, you have been to these life science field days a couple of times. Would you like to host one now after Corona? And I said, of course I do, because I'm missing the opportunity to talk to people in person and not via video chats and so on. I think the coffee breaks are really valuable to get away from the more formal presentations and really just talk business. With me here together is pretty much my entire department sitting there in the last 2 rows. So if you have any technical questions or so, they're happy to to answer any of this. But we will have a couple of talks here from Helmholtz Munich, as Paul just introduced. So from the research side and also from the IT side. So Bom will present what we have in terms of technical infrastructure here. Might be interesting to some of you, but definitely the focus is on the research we do with the IT equipment. And so this is not an IT workshop, even though it is sponsored by DDN. But I think what gets done with the IT is really the main point. And so I'm really glad you came out here from your home office spaces and your desks and joined us here in person. And so my presentation, first of all, about myself. So I'm the head of the IT infrastructure and scientific computing department here at Helmholtz Munich, meaning my department is responsible from the telephone system, Active Directory, email, all the way then to the big compute cluster and storage. And again, my people are sitting here. But what is Helmholtz Munich? That's what I'm going to talk about in the next 10 minutes so that you know where you are. I heard from some of you that you enjoyed the walk from the main gate over here, that, wow, it's a big campus, beautiful, very green and so on and so forth. It's an interesting history. I already told some of you, we started out as a research center with a small nuclear reactor here when nuclear power was really getting up and running, and Germans were thinking maybe we should find out what it does to the human body. And that was when we got the reactor here and this institution started. And we still have the Bundesamt für Strahlenschutz, the German federal authority for, how do you translate this? Radiation protection, thank you. Here on site, they do a little bit isotope research and what it does to tissue samples, so no humans are irradiated here. But the focus of the center has broadened quite a bit from this radiation protection to just general implications of environment to health. What does our environment do to our health? And so our mission, therefore, became we discover breakthrough solutions for better health in a rapidly changing world. And with global warming and so on and so forth, so a lot of mechanisms in the environment going on, with industrialization, so the micro dust in the air and so on. So lots of topics that are researched here. And I will give you a very broad overview of what we do there specifically and how we do it. And so first of all, what is Helmholtz? It's unfortunate that we always have to first tell everybody what that is. So Max Planck, everybody kind of knows, and Fraunhofer maybe also, but Helmholtz, what is that? Right? So the Helmholtz Association is a loose organization of 19 completely independent research centers. And we are indeed the largest scientific organization in Germany. So larger than Max Planck and Fraunhofer and so on. So we are the largest. And so you can see, is this a pointer that actually works? No, it's not. You can see that these Helmholtz centers are distributed all over Germany. For the federal states in Germany, it's very attractive to have one of these because funding for these centers is 90% from the federal government and 10% from the state there are. So it's kind of the federal government subsidizing research in the states. And we are where the red arrow is in Bavaria, in Munich. And the Helmholtz centers do basic research in one of those 6 areas that are mentioned here on the left of the slide. It's unfortunately very small and hard to read, but these are energy, earth environment, matter, information, aeronautic space and transportation, and health. And we are one of 6 Helmholtz centers that do research in health. And all of the Helmholtz Association is a huge budget, more than 5 billion euros a year with over 43,000 employees. So it's quite a big research organization. Now, Helmholtz Munich is, of course, much smaller. It's one of those 19, but still we are not small. So 2,500 people are employed working here, mostly here on campus, but we do have other branch sites, several in Munich, but also in other places in Germany. A lot of these outside research groups are associated with the university clinic because we do very close collaboration with a lot of the clinical research. We do kind of the basic research. We discover the mechanisms, often with samples coming from the clinics, but we don't diagnose or anything. We don't work on therapies. So we are not critics. We are not treating patients. We are really doing basic research. Just our third-party funding is 100 million. I actually have no idea how much our basic funding is, but that's third-party funding. We are very active in acquiring European research grants, 48. And we do, as I said, basic research, but still we file patents and we do a lot in terms of translational research. I'll get back to that in a slide or two. And so this whole basic research translates into real effects and real results. So it's not just some esoteric, oh yeah, someone looks at a microscope and thinks, yay, great, I found this, and then moves on. No, it does improve, indeed, healthcare and our understanding of the human body. And yeah, we are also headquarter of a number of other organizations. So for instance, the German Center for Diabetes Research is headquartered here. Then the Helmholtz AI Cooperation Unit, and Fabian Theis, who will give a presentation later today, is the director of that as well. We are the head of the National Cohort Repository, which we will be visiting in the tour. Maybe if you are not German, you may not have heard about the national cohort in Germany. There were 200,000 Germans randomly chosen to participate and then kind of contribute their phenotype to this registry. So including some biosamples, which are stored here, the other repositories in Berlin. And it's just the data collection. Now they're waiting for funding to actually do something with the data, because that wasn't included in the original proposal. So if you have ideas what to do with stool samples, I don't know, from 200,000 randomly chosen Germans, think about that. And we are also head of the German Mouse Clinic. Sounds a little macabre, but you can send your genetically modified mice to us, and then we phenotype them. We find out, okay, you knocked out this gene or you did something else to the genome. What effect does it have on the mouse, on its health, on its mobility, on its cognitive capabilities and so on? So that's what's done here. And we also breed mice, So you can order strains of mice here as well. And then LS Munich, I'm sure that Fabian Theis later will talk about that a little more. There are, of course, grad schools associated with us. We are not a degree granting institution, which always gets us into interesting license discussions with companies, but that's a different story. But we do collaborate with all the Munich and Bavarian universities a lot. Most of our PIs and group leaders are, in fact, professor at one of those universities. Okay, so what are the research areas that we do? As I said, the focus is really on environmental health. So what effect environment has on health. And it's represented here in this kind of very abstract graphs. We have these 3 pillars. We are one of the worldwide leading diabetes centers. We are one of the very few centers that research diabetes 1. Most people research diabetes 2, which is bad nutrition and so on. The effect or one of the effects, but diabetes 1 is inherited and there is no cure for that. And typically children are affected by this. They need to learn how to inject insulin and so on. So it's pretty nasty. And if you've traveled in town here in Munich, you might have seen big posters. Kids are hero, with the I in kids being 1 for diabetes 1. That's us. That's one of our initiatives. And then we have the Pioneer Campus, which develops technology for research. So I have one very interesting example later. So we improve technology. We do synthetic biology. So we invent new proteins, if you will. Another thing. And then there's this whole environmental health center where asthma, lung diseases, and so on and so forth are researched, but also plant biology. That's very important. And then across, there are kind of the core facilities and the technologies that we are using. So for instance, we have a molecular therapy center, a stem cell center, bioengineering center, and now really very prominently the computational health center, where computation plays a really leading role in doing the research. And again, Fabian will probably talk about this a little bit more. So some highlights which I like to stress, because I also like to stress we do basic research, but that has an immediate effect on society and on our health care system. And these are some of the examples. So about diabetes 1, I already talked. The World Without One, that's the previous campaign before Kids Are Hero. We do a lot of cohort studies. So the GPAT study collects a lot of samples from people and then diagnoses, no, I shouldn't say that, analyzes the data there. We do preclinical and clinical optoacoustic imaging, which is really cool. So you do kind of ultrasound and then well, how is it? I think you put ultrasound on the tissue and you detect the light, or it's the other way around. Again, I'm an IT person, right? So maybe you shine light on the tissue and then you listen how it reacts. It's crazy. So it's anyway the coupling between optics and acoustics. Very interesting. So it's a new kind of imaging tool being invented here. And then we have a spin-off, this Demagnostics for inflammatory skin disease. And then the first in-class cancer immunotherapy drug, the SMALT1 inhibitor, and it's in clinical trial. So again, our basic research translates immediately into real, visible effects for the society. Also, we are really getting good in communicating what we are doing to the public. So public engagement and science communication is a really big topic here. I put up some examples here. Too bad I don't have a pointer here. At the beginning of COVID, you often saw Ulrike Protzer in the news. She's working here and at the Technical University of Munich. We have experts in the federal government's committees sitting there. What are the health effects of global warming? So they're advising the federal government there. So you see this on the right side. So we try to translate what we are doing to lay people, to politicians on an everyday basis. It's really important that people understand, firstly, what we are doing, but secondly, what are the results of our research in terms of, for instance, how bad is global warming? So we do the research for that. And then getting more to the topic of this workshop here, AI, it's a big theme here at the center. And we collaborate and house a number of groups. Helmholtz AI already talked about. Alice I defer to now, which is kind of international lighthouse institutions will get an Alice group, but you need to apply to become one. And so we are one now. And then the MATS, the Munich Data Science School, where we train young people to deal with big data sets and medical data sets, teach them AI methods and so on and so forth. Very interesting. And then I thought I'd bring you 3 very subjectively selected highlights of research. Again, I'm an IT person, so I can pick whatever I want, so I don't have to look at citation scores or whatever. These 3 are fascinating because it also shows the breadth of our research here. On the right side, we were part of the consortium that decoded the wheat genome. So you would have thought, yeah, wheat, I mean, seems like an important plant and people have done the decoding a long time ago. Well, it was only 2000 that we did this. And it's really important. The research now is going on now that we know the kind of the germline, the basic gene of wheat. Now we are searching worldwide of wild type wheat and see what are their properties. Maybe they're more drought resistant, more warm resistant, and then gene sequence those and then bring them back into the kind of factory wheat so that the population can be fed. Similar thing with oat. Just last year, we were part of the consortium that decoded the oat genome. Similar reason why we want to do this. But that shows we don't only do research on humans and mice and tissues and so on, but also on plants. We do have some greenhouses here. That would have been another tour we could have done. We have climate chambers where we simulate global warming and dust in the air and this stuff and see what happens to plants. And then on the left, this video, I don't know, can I start this again, Paul? I don't know, I don't want to break something here when I click on. Yeah, okay, that's. So we have a group here for Ali Ertürk. He does tissue engineering. He makes transparent mice. They look like plastic. It's totally creepy, but these are formerly living, now dead mice, and he makes them completely transparent. And when they still live, he puts certain markers in these mice that then fluoresce when you shine light on them. And so these markers then attach to something you're interested in, cancer cells or whatever. Multiple sclerosis was running on the display outside until we changed it. And this is now the distribution of COVID in a mouse body, which probably transfers to the human body as well, showing for the first time in a full 3D resolution where the COVID remains are in the body. And it shows, for instance, that it gets very close to the brain. And there's a lot of COVID remains in the brain barrier. And so that will hopefully start to explain a lot of the long COVID problems people are having, because they're not crazy. It's just not known that the COVID proteins are everywhere in the body, not just in the respiratory system. And so this 3D imaging technology, by making mice transparent and putting, before the mouse died, some markers on certain proteins, will help really the 3D distribution of certain things in the body to display. And so again, from an oat to transparent mice, you get everything here on campus, and that's so fascinating here. And we provide the IT for everything. Bom will talk about what we are doing, how we are doing it. And I hope you're having a great time here. Take the time to talk to the Helmholtz Munich people among yourself, what you're doing. And I hope this will be a very fruitful workshop for you. And it was worthwhile for you to come here. And join us here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So before you go, does anyone have any questions, maybe online or something like that? One of the things that we spoke about yesterday was the challenges if you're trying to collaborate with other institutions. If you've actually got a big lot of research here, you're building a big data set here and others elsewhere, there's a number of initiatives about sharing that. What's your perspective on that? What's the best way to make that happen?
The best way, yeah. Talk to the Finns and the Danes. I think they have figured it out with the National Health Registry or the UK Biobank. I think there are good examples. And we, of course, use those data sets as well. So we apply for UK Biobank, NIH, and whoever has the data. And I think Germany is really behind in this. And there are some initiatives now going on. The EU is working on some legislation for a European health data space, which is driven from Finland and Denmark, where they want to expand their example to all of Europe and requiring all the European countries to put their health data in a secure data space, so that then it is easy to have secondary use of this health data for us researchers, but also for pharma industry, for research, because it's for the public good to use that data. So that's number one, but the EU is big and slow and moving things is difficult. To get kind of a head start on this, we are working now on a Bavarian cloud for health research. We are right now applying for funding for this, and Fabian Theis is one of the fathers of this idea, where we have a smaller version of this European health data space already here in Bavaria, where clinical data gets into this very secure space, and we as researchers then can apply for data access and do the compute then there in the secure data space. So we are not getting that data from the clinics into our data center. Instead, we export our basic research data into the secure data space together with the data from the clinics and do the computation in there and then get the results back. So a number of initiatives I'm looking forward to coming to fruition. But data sharing in general, well, if it's about mice, it might be easy, but if it's about people, then it's of course more difficult. And making this safe and secure is really a challenge. And again, as I'm saying, I think Germany is behind. There are technologies out there in other countries where we can learn a lot from, and I'm hopeful that we catch up there a little bit.
Okay, thank you. It's one of those areas where I think legislation and government will move very slowly, much more slowly than the technology in many cases. But anyway, we look forward to it. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks.